Welcome to this explainer. We're jumping straight into what is easily the most fiercely debated split second in all of sports history. We're talking about a single bouncing ball in the summer of 1966 that didn't just decide a World Cup championship, it literally changed global football forever. We're going to trace the massive ripple effects of this one moment across culture, science, and the very rules of the beautiful game. Let's get into it. Set the scene with me. July 30th, 1966. We're deep into the 101st minute, extra time, at Wembley Stadium in London. England and West Germany are deadlocked at 2-2. England's Geoff Hurst swivels in the box and strikes the ball with absolute venom. It smashes into the underside of the crossbar, careens straight down onto the turf, and bounces away. For the nearly 97,000 fans packed in the stands, time just completely freezes. And the ultimate question was born right then and there. Did the whole ball cross the line? Now, the man who took the shot, England's Geoff Hurst, remains adamantly convinced to this very day that it was a legitimate goal. He's gone on record saying he'd tell anyone connected with world football that the ball was, in his exact words, at least 1 meter over the line, full stop. So for the English side, absolutely no doubt. A clear victory. But let's flip the perspective. West German goalkeeper Hans Tilkowski, who probably had the absolute best view as he was scrambling right there on the turf, insisted the exact opposite. Before he passed away in 2020, he stated he was 100% sure it was not a goal. He said he looked right over his left shoulder and clearly saw the ball bounce on the line, not behind it. So we've got two completely opposite realities, perfectly setting up a dispute that would last for decades. Which brings us to our first section, the linesman and the legend. To figure out why this blew up into such a massive controversy, you have to look past the players for a second and focus on the sheer chaotic human drama unfolding between the officials. The Swiss referee, Gottfried Dienst, was totally unsighted. He didn't know what he just saw. So he sprints over to his linesman, Tofik Barmov, who hailed from the Soviet Union, Azerbaijan specifically. Now, get this. Dienst spoke German and French. Baharmov spoke Russian and Azerbaijani. They shared absolutely no common language, zero. With the World Cup literally hanging in the balance, they couldn't speak a single word to each other. Think about how wild that is. The most consequential decision in football history was made entirely through gestures and eye contact. Baharmov just gives a nod, raises his flag, and points right to the center circle. Goal. Just like that, England takes a 3-2 lead, pushing them toward an eventual 4-2 win and securing their first and still their only World Cup trophy. All right, moving on to Section 2, a rivalry set in stone. Because that one whistle didn't just end a game, right? It birthed an intense cultural rivalry. To truly grasp the sheer scale of the fallout here, you have to look at the numbers. An astonishing 32.3 million people in the UK watched this happen live. To put that into perspective, that's roughly a third of the country's population at the time. To this day, it remains the most watched British television broadcast ever. A massive chunk of the country was collectively traumatized, thrilled, and just forever bonded by this one single controversial bounce. Meanwhile, over in Germany, the cultural impact was so profound that they actually invented a brand new word for it. The term Wembley Tor, or Wembley Goal, entered the German dictionary to describe this exact flavor of sporting injustice. If a ball hits the crossbar, drops straight down, and the call is super dubious, boom, that's a Wembley Tor. It became the ultimate symbol of a stolen victory. The ripple effects across both societies were just staggering. In England, the Royal Mail was quick to issue a special stamp celebrating the England winners, sparking an absolute buying frenzy. In the stands, English fans started belting out the historically charged 2 World Wars and 1 World Cup chant, completely weaving this sporting win into the dark, complicated geopolitical history between the two nations. And then, thousands of miles away in Azerbaijan, linesman Tofik Baharmov became an absolute national hero. He even got a massive stadium statue that fans still go visit today. And the lore surrounding Baharmov is just incredible. There's this famous, albeit unverified legend that for decades he totally refused to explain his decision. But on his deathbed, when he was asked one final time why he awarded that goal to England, the Soviet linesman supposedly just uttered one single word: Stalingrad. Whether that's actual historical fact or just a really powerful myth, it hits the nail on the head in showing how deeply intertwined this football match was with the haunting shadows of World War II. Next up, Section 3, Science steps onto the pitch. So for 30 years, this whole debate was fueled by nothing but memory, national pride, and raw emotion. But in 1996, cold, hard science finally stepped onto the pitch to find the objective truth. Researchers Andrew Zisserman and Ian Reid from Oxford University decided to tackle the mystery using early computer vision. And man, they had their work cut out for them. The 1966 broadcast footage was super grainy, the camera feeds weren't synced up at all, and there were hardly any fixed points on the grass to measure from. But by using complex geometry and calculating the homographies of the ground plane, which is basically a fancy mathematical way of mapping how flat surfaces look from different camera angles, they meticulously reconstructed the exact trajectory of the ball. And you guys, the math delivered an absolutely stunning verdict. The ball fell short of fully crossing the line by at least 6 centimeters. Now, by the absolute letter of the football law, which states the whole of the ball must cross the whole of the line, it was not a goal. 30 years later, science proved the Germans were actually right all along. Absolutely wild, right? Moving on to Section 4, a ghost goal's revenge. Now, you might think having definitive scientific proof would be the end of this explainer. The mystery's solved, let's pack it up. But football history had an incredibly ironic twist waiting in the wings. Fast forward to the 2010 World Cup in South Africa. It's England facing Germany once again. And in a moment of just pure dramatic irony, England's Frank Lampard hits a brilliant shot. It smashes the crossbar, bounces down, and this time, it clearly crosses the line by a mile. But the officials completely missed it. The ref waves play on. England is denied a totally clear equalizer, and they end up suffering a crushing 4-1 defeat to the Germans. For a lot of people in Germany, it felt like karma. Justice finally delivered 44 years late. Check out how this entire saga builds over the timeline here. The 1966 goal kicks off the debate. Then, the 1996 Oxford analysis shows us exactly what technology is capable of. But it was the massive global outrage from Lampard's 2010 ghost goal that finally broke the dam. The pressure was just way too much for the sport's governing body to ignore anymore. So in 2012, FIFA officially approved goal decision systems for all major tournaments. Thanks to this decades-long drama, elite football today relies on computer vision, systems like Hawkeye. As executives noted when it was introduced, this tech is designed for one specific, discrete decision. Within 20 seconds flat, a definitive graphical representation is buzzed right to the referee's watch and flashed on the stadium screens. It completely, 100% eliminates the reliance on unaided human judgment at the goal line. So technology has finally brought absolute, undeniable truth to the goal line. But it leaves us with kind of a provocative thought, doesn't it? If a computer makes the call instantly and flawlessly every single time, there are no more deathbed confessions, no more cultural myths, no more decades of passionate pub arguments. In our quest for perfect fairness, are we sacrificing the very mysteries and human dramas that make sports history so unforgettable? It's definitely something to think about the next time you see that goal alert pop up on your screen. Thanks so much for joining me for this explainer, and keep questioning the history behind the rules.